Welcome to a Telltale Books video. My name is Greg, and I'm going to continue my Stephen King series now, reading everything I can get my hands on, published by Stephen King in order of publication. Now, I will be skipping a lot of the graphic novel adaptations because I'm just not into those, but reading the regular stories and novels. And I am up to number 18, which is called I Am the Doorway. This story was published in Cavalier, a men's magazine, in March of 1971. I have it in my slipcase edition from Cemetery Dance of Night Shift. And of course, every edition of Night Shift that you would buy, the paperbacks, the original hardcover, they'll all have I Am the Doorway in it. It's only a short story, and it's it's a horror story, but it's also a science fiction story, which Stephen King is not really noted for writing science fiction. But that's okay because it's a horror story also. But no, he did want to write science fiction. The story I've heard is that he was mostly rejected by the science fiction magazines when he was starting out. And well, magazines like Cavalier and Playboy and all them actually paid better anyway. So he was probably better off where he ended up publishing, but he did try to sell to the regular science fiction magazines. And later on, the only one of the major science fiction magazines that bought his work was the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. But this was after Carrie had been published and he became a big star. So before he became a big star, which is where we're at now, he wasn't getting published. And I think it's because what he was doing, as good as it was, just it wasn't what at least the readers of the science fiction magazines expected. I Am the Doorway definitely would not have fit analog. So John Campbell, I don't think would have ever bought this. Um, Asimov's didn't exist in 1971. Galaxy and If, they were companion magazines. Um, Not really their kind of thing either. Amazing Stories was still going, but Amazing didn't really, as far as I know, publish stories like I Am the Doorway. Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, this would have fit into, but for whatever reason, I don't know if he didn't submit it there or if they rejected it. I don't know what happened there, but it didn't get published in that one either. But so, the major science fiction magazines in 1971. Um, I'm neglecting New Worlds. This might have fit into New Worlds as well, but he might not have even known of New Worlds at the time. But otherwise, King's fiction was just, it didn't fit the type of fiction that that most of them typically publish. Like I say, fantasy and science fiction and New Worlds, it might have fit into pretty well, but the others, no, I just can't see a story like this fitting into their style of fiction, because every magazine has that. Every magazine has a specific audience and its style of fiction that they become known for. Analog is known for the hard science fiction. Fantasy and science fiction is known for the blend of fantasy and science fiction and even some horror. Amazing Stories was known more for more adventure style science fiction. So they all had their niche and their audience and the type of fiction that their audience expected from them. And they had to buy stories that their readers were going to like, which means the stories had to be the type of story that the core readership of the magazine went for. And Stephen King just wasn't, he didn't really fit into those things, which was good for him because he has made a lot more money than he ever could have made selling primarily to the science fiction magazines. Anyway, I Am the Doorway, published in March of 1971. And in it, you have an astronaut that went on a mission to the planet Venus. And he encountered something there. He comes back to Earth, and it seems to have come back with him and seems to be inside of him, kind of a part of him, kind of taking him over, some sort of alien presence. That synopsis does not do this story justice. Um, it's a very cool story, very weird, kind of surrealistic, but still very traditional science fiction horror as well, all at the same time. It's weird, but it's plotted more like a traditional science fiction story and has your science fiction imagery of spaceships and going to the planet Venus and alien intelligences. So it's very, very much a solid science fiction story. At the same time, it's very much a horror story and is not just your typical Weird Tales kind of horror story. It's cosmic horror and it's very imaginative, well written for a short story. What you get out of it, the feeling you get of the main character is pretty strong. Even though he doesn't go into tons of detail, he doesn't have room in a short story to go into tons of detail about the character, the character's background, but you still get a good sense of it, which, makes it a very, very strong story. I give this one a top tail. I thought it was remarkable. And I recommend it to everybody who loves science fiction horror, who loves Stephen King, who loves just flat out weird stories. This is a really good and entertaining and weird short story. Have you read I Am the Doorway in Night Shift or Cavalier or wherever it may have occurred for you? Leave your comments, leave thoughts about Stephen King in the early days of his career, any facts I don't know, didn't mention, please leave them in the comments section. Otherwise, like the video, subscribe to our channel if you're not, because I got a lot more Stephen King to come. The next one, after I Am the Doorway, number 19, is Suffer the Little Children. And that one's in Nightmares and Dreamscapes, but was also published in Cavalier. That'll be my next Stephen King. I got a lot of other authors coming, a lot of other great topic videos. Emily is shooting some readings of public domain poetry, some great classic poetry. She wanted to do that, and I said, yeah, go ahead, we'll fit it in. So we've got that coming up, and just lots of discussions of a wide variety of great, great stories coming your way. So come on back.